how to design a simple lace motif in Sprang using graph paper. When designing lace in Sprang, you can either create the pattern with the holes, or you can create the pattern with the regular interlinkings between the holes or the negative space. In this video, I'm going to show you how to design a pattern with the holes. So we're going to mostly be looking at this design right here, these sort of little chevrons. This is a really simple, easy to do pattern, and so it'll be very easy to explain as well. So the first thing that you'll notice is that I've added some numbers to some of the squares, and the numbers that are going down are the rows, and the numbers going across are the interlinkings. And I start from the upper right corner because I work my sprung from right to left and from top down. And you'll also notice that there are 9, this is 1 through 9, and that does mean that there are going to be 9 wraps on my sprung warp. Now obviously it could be wider, but this is just the part of the motif, and I will just be working the motif today. So each square on the graph paper represents an interlinking, and the colored in squares represent the holes that we will be creating. And the first thing you're going to notice is that the holes do span 2 rows, and this is the same as in when you're working the sprung, because you will open a hole on one row and you usually will leave it open on the following row just by not doing anything, and then on the 3rd row it will close back up if you work a regular row and you don't keep the hole open. All this design, we're just doing holes that are open for 2 rows like this. So one thing to keep in mind is that if each of these squares represents a single interlinking, and this square represents a hole and no interlinking. But if we were to work this straight across, there would be an interlinking here at 5. So what's going to happen is that the 2 threads that should make up this interlinking are going to be worked in with the number 4 interlinking and the number 6 interlinking. So keep in mind that to create a hole, you first work a pick 1, drop 2 interlinking. So pick 1 back thread and drop 2 front. And then immediately after that, you work a pick 2 threads and drop 1. So on 4, you pick 1 thread, drop 2, and on 6, you pick 2, drop 1, and those 2 extra threads are the threads that would have made the number 5 interlinking, but instead we're creating a hole. Okay, so let's go ahead and work this little motif right here on a little sprung warp. All right, so I worked a couple of rows and I'm now set to start my motif. I'm going to be working the motif on the basic rows because it's complicated to count out your threads when you're starting your row with the pick 2, drop 1. So we're just going to be doing this on a basic row, and that'll make it a lot easier. So going back to our pattern real quick, you'll notice that on row 1, the first row of our motif, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 interlinkings before the hole, and on the number 4 interlinking we're going to do a pick 1, drop 2. So let's go ahead and do that row. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to pick 1, drop 2. This is the empty space where 5 would be, and then on 6 we're going to pick 2, drop 1, 7, 8, 9. And then the next row is a shift row, and we're not going to do anything special on this row. We just do a regular shift row. Our hole will stay open. All right, so now we are on to row 3. So looking back at our pattern, on row 3 we have 1, 2, 3. So on the 3rd interlinking we're going to do a pick 1, drop 2. 4 is a hole. 5 is actually going to end up being a pick 2, drop 2, because we need to do sort of the second half of this hole plus the first half of this hole in the same interlinking. So that's a little bit complicated, but it'll make sense. And then hole here, and 7 will be a pick 2, drop 1. Okay, so 1, 2, now 3 is a pick 1, drop 2, 4 is our hole, 5 is a pick 2, and it would be a drop 1, except 5 is also going to be starting our second hole. So we're going to pick 2 and drop 2, and then this is where 6 would be, and it's our hole, and then 7 is a pick 2, drop 1, and now 8 and 9. And then again, just work a regular shift row. And then let's look back at our pattern again. So we've done 3 and 4, and now we're going to do 5. And so on 5, we have 1, and then on 2, we're going to do a pick 1, drop 2. We have our hole. 4 will be a pick 2, drop 1. 5 will be a regular interlinking. 6 will be a pick 1, drop 2. 7 our hole. 8 will be a pick 2, drop 1, and then 9 will be a regular interlinking. All right, so row 5. So 1, 2, we're going to pick 1 and drop 2. 3 would be our hole. 4, we're going to pick 2, drop 1. 5 is a regular interlinking. 6 is a pick 1, drop 2 to open our hole on 7. Here's our hole. 8 is a pick 2, drop 1, and 9 is a regular 1, 1. And then a regular shift row. And back to our pattern. So we are now on to row 7, and you'll notice on row 7, we start our second little chevron. So we're going to be doing a few more holes in here, and I'm not going to go through what each of these are, but I will go through this row real quick with you. So row 7, on our very first interlinking, because the number 2 interlinking is going to be a hole, we're going to pick 1, drop 2, and then here 2 is our hole. Number 3 is a pick 2, drop 1. And then let's see. Number 4 is actually going to be a pick 1, drop 2, because we're opening a hole right here in the middle. And that is number 5. And then number 6 is a pick 2, drop 1 to close that hole up. And then number 7 is a pick 1, drop 2, because we're opening another hole here at the edge. And 9 is pick 2, drop 1. And that row might have seemed a little bit complicated, but if you pay close attention to the pattern, it makes sense. And then a regular shift row. All right, I'm gonna finish this pattern up so you can see what it looks like at the end and compare it to the drawn out pattern. All right, so here's our finished motif. It is a little hard to see on the loom. It'll look better if I take it off and block it. But for now, here you can see there is the first chevron and there's the second chevron. I can't really hold them both open at the same time, unfortunately. But anyway, you get the point. So there we have from pattern to on the warp. And I hope that all made sense and that this gives you the tools you need to design and work your own sprung lace patterns. Let me know if there is a pattern or motif that you want to try and you're having trouble with, and I'll see if I can't make a video on it. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.